The day I found my grandmother's obituary online, I discovered my fiancé was my half-brother. Throwaway, because this is still unfolding, and I can't breathe properly when I think about it. I never thought I'd be posting here. I'm the kind of person who reads these stories and thinks, that could never happen to me. I have a normal life, normal job, normal engagement to a wonderful man. And now I have a secret that makes me want to crawl out of my own skin. I grew up in a mid-sized coastal town in the Pacific Northwest. My mom raised me on her own, just the two of us in a small apartment near the water. She worked as a dental hygienist, and she was the kind of mother who made sure I had everything I needed even when she went without. I never knew my father. When I was old enough to ask, she told me he was a man she met briefly, that the relationship ended before she knew she was pregnant, and that he had no interest in being involved. She showed me a single photograph once, a blurry image of a man with dark hair and kind eyes at a summer festival, and said his name was David. That was all I ever got. My mother's family was a closed book. She had a younger brother she never spoke to, and her parents died before I was born. That's what she told me. Anyway, when I pressed for details as a teenager, she'd get a distant look and change the subject. I learned not to ask. It was just the two of us, and that was enough. I met Evan during my junior year of college. I was at a state university about 4 hours from home, studying elementary education. He was in the engineering program. We met at a mutual friend's birthday party at a dive bar near campus. I remember walking in and seeing him across the room, laughing at something, and feeling this ridiculous magnetic pull. He had dark curly hair and these warm brown eyes that crinkled when he smiled. He was tall, easily over 6 feet, and he had this easy confidence that made everyone around him relax. We talked for hours that night. We discovered we both loved old Bob Dylan albums and terrible reality TV. We both hated mayonnaise and loved thunderstorms. He walked me back to my apartment, and I gave him my number without hesitation. 3 days later, we had our first official date, and I called my mother afterward and told her I'd met someone special. He's an engineering student. I said, curled up on my bed, he's really funny. And he's tall, Mom. Really tall. She laughed. Is tall the most important thing? No, but it doesn't hurt. I paused. He's from a small town in Northern California. He has 2 younger sisters. His parents are still married. He's normal, Mom. Like, actually normal. That's good, honey. You deserve normal. What I didn't tell her was that Evan felt familiar in a way I couldn't explain. From that first conversation, it was like we'd known each other in another life. We finished each other's sentences. We had the same weird habit of tapping our thumbs 3 times when we were thinking. We both hummed when we were concentrating. It was eerie and wonderful, and I took it as a sign that we were meant to find each other. The first year of our relationship was idyllic. We spent weekends exploring the city, studying together in coffee shops, falling asleep on the phone. He met my mother during spring break, and she adored him. I watched her face soften when he helped her carry groceries inside, when he asked questions about her work, when he listened to her stories with genuine interest. He's a good one, she told me after he left. Don't screw it up. He's not going anywhere, Mom. I met his family that summer. His parents, Linda and Robert, lived in a small house in a small town surrounded by almond orchards. Linda was warm and talkative, with the same dark curly hair as Evan. Robert was quieter, a retired high school principal who spent his days woodworking in the garage. They welcomed me like I was already family. Linda showed me photo albums of Evan as a chubby-cheeked kid, told embarrassing stories about his teenage years, made my favorite meals without me having to ask. His younger sisters, twins in high school, treated me like the older sister they'd always wanted. They did my makeup before we went out. demanded relationship advice, made me promise to be their maid of honor someday when they got married. I remember lying in Evan's childhood bed that first night, listening to the crickets outside and thinking, this is it. This is what I've been missing. We got engaged 2 years later. Evan proposed at the same dive bar where we met on the same night 3 years after that first conversation. He got down on one knee next to a sticky table while our friends cheered and someone played Like a Rolling Stone on the jukebox. I said yes before he even finished asking. My mother cried when we told her. Happy tears. She hugged Evan and told him to take care of me, and he promised he would. His parents sent flowers and a card that said welcome to family, officially. We set a date for the following June. We found a venue, a renovated barn outside the city with string lights and exposed beams. We put down deposits. We started building a life. Here's where everything starts to fall apart. In February, about 4 months before the wedding, my mother called me with news. Her younger brother, the one she never spoke to, had died. A heart attack, sudden at 62. She hadn't seen him in over 40 years, hadn't spoken to him since she was 19, but she was his only living relative and she needed to handle the arrangements. I have to go back, she said, her voice strange and hollow. To my hometown. I have to go back. I'd never heard her talk about a hometown. I didn't even know where she was from. Where's that? I asked carefully. Northern California. Small town. You wouldn't know it. The same region Evan was from. The same region his family lived in. I felt a flicker of something, curiosity, maybe, or unease, but I pushed it down. California was a big state, lots of small towns. I'll come with you, I said, if you want, for support. No. The word came out sharp, then softened. No, honey, I need to do this alone. It's complicated. Old history. I'll be fine. She went. She was gone for 4 days. When she came back, she didn't talk about it. I asked once gently, and she said, there's nothing to say. He's gone. It's over. I didn't push. A month later, Evan's grandmother passed away. Linda's mother. We'd met her a few times. A tiny, sharp woman with white hair and a biting sense of humor. She'd been in declining health for years, so it wasn't unexpected, but it was still sad. The funeral was in the same small town where Evan grew up, and of course I went with him. That's where I found the photograph. We were at Linda's house the day before the funeral, helping with arrangements. People were coming and going, neighbors with casseroles, cousins I'd never met, old family friends. I was in the living room, trying to stay out of the way, when I noticed a stack of photo albums on a shelf. I pulled one down idly, flipping through pages of Evan as a baby, Evan's first day of school, Evan's parents on their wedding day. And then I found a page with older photographs, black and white. A young woman in a high school graduation gown. A family gathered around a Christmas tree. A teenage girl with long dark hair and a defiant expression. I stared at that last photograph. The girl looked familiar in a way that made my stomach drop. She had my mother's eyes, my mother's chin, my mother's stubborn set to her jaw. Linda came in behind me. Oh, those are old, she said. That's my mother's side. Her and her siblings growing up. Who is this? I pointed at the girl. Linda leaned in. That's my aunt, my mother's sister. She ran away when they were teenagers. No one ever heard from her again. My mother never talked about it much. It was a sore subject. What was her name? Anna Reeves. My mother's name is Anna Marie. And her maiden name, the one she never used, the one I'd only seen on old documents once, was Reeves. I don't remember closing the photo album. I don't remember setting it down. I remember excusing myself to the bathroom and standing over the sink, gripping the porcelain, trying to breathe. My mother was Linda's aunt, which meant my mother and Linda were first cousins, which meant Evan and I were. I couldn't finish the thought. I called Evan. He was at the funeral home with his father, making arrangements. I told him I needed to see him, that it was urgent, that he needed to come back to the house. My voice must have sounded strange, because he asked if I was okay, and I lied and said yes. He came back within 20 minutes. I pulled him into the backyard, away from the noise of the house, and told him everything. He stared at me for a long moment. Then he said, "That's not possible. There's no way." I saw the photograph. Evan, it's her. It's my mother. Lots of people look alike. With the same name, from the same region, who ran away as a teenager and never came back. He ran his hands through his hair, a nervous habit I'd seen 1,000 times. Okay, let's think about this. Let's be logical. Maybe it's a coincidence. Maybe your mother has a common name and... My mother has an uncommon name. Anna Reeves. How many Anna Reeves from small-town Northern California ran away as teenagers and were never heard from again? He didn't have an answer. Neither did I. We spent the next hour on our phones, cross-referencing information. I called my mother and asked, as casually as I could, was she grown up? She gave me the name of the town, the same town where Evan's family lived. I asked her the names of her parents. She paused and said, "Why are you asking all this?" "Just curious. With the wedding coming up, I've been thinking about family history." She gave me the names. They matched the names on the graves we were visiting the next day. I hung up and looked at Evan. He was pale. "We need to tell them," he said. "We need to tell my parents." "I know." We told them that night. Linda and Robert sat at the kitchen table while we explained everything. The photograph, the names, the towns, the impossible coincidence. Linda's face went through a series of emotions: confusion, disbelief, dawning horror. "Anna," she whispered. "My Aunt Anna. She's alive? She's your mother?" "Yes. And you two are..." She couldn't finish. "We didn't know," Evan said. "We had no idea." How could we have known? Robert, practical as always, asked the question neither of us wanted to hear. "Have you been intimate?" We looked at each other. We'd been together for over 3 years. We were engaged. Of course we'd been intimate. But admitting it out loud in this context felt like confessing to a crime. "Yes," Evan said quietly. "We have." Linda covered her mouth with her hand. Robert stared at the table. "We didn't know." I said again. "We never would have. We didn't." "I know, sweetheart." Linda's voice was thick. "I know you didn't know. This isn't your fault. It's no one's fault." The next few hours were a blur of tears and difficult conversations. Linda told us what she knew about her Aunt Anna, the little her mother had shared. Anna was the youngest of 4 children, restless and rebellious, constantly fighting with their parents. She ran away at 17 with a boy from a neighboring town. Her mother never stopped hoping she'd come back, but she never did. Eventually, the letters stopped. The phone calls stopped. She vanished. She changed her name? I asked. Apparently. Or maybe she just stopped using Reeves. I don't know. My mother never talked about it. It was too painful. I thought about my mother, alone in that small apartment, raising me without family, without history. I thought about the photograph she'd shown me once, the blurry image of a man at a summer festival. "David," she'd said, "my father." But I didn't know anything else about him. I didn't know his last name, where he was from, whether he was alive or dead. "Your father," Linda said carefully. "Do you know anything about him? His name? His family?" Just his first name. David. Why? She and Robert exchanged a look. What? Evan demanded. What are you thinking? Robert spoke slowly. It's probably nothing. But my mother had a brother, David. He died about 15 years ago. Car accident. He never married, never had children, as far as we knew. The room went very quiet. Do you have a photograph? I asked. Linda went to the photo albums. She found one. A man in his 30s, dark hair, kind eyes, standing at a summer festival. The same man from my mother's photograph. The same blurry image I'd seen once and never forgotten. I couldn't breathe. I couldn't think. Evan's hand found mine and held on tight. He was my father. I whispered. David was my father, which meant Evan and I weren't just first cousins. We were half-siblings. The math was brutal and inescapable. My mother and Linda were first cousins, sharing grandparents. But if my father was Linda's brother David, then my mother and father were first cousins too. And Evan was Linda's son, which meant Evan and I shared grandparents on his mother's side and also shared a father. Half-siblings. We were half-siblings. I don't remember much after that. I remember Linda crying. I remember Robert making phone calls, canceling the funeral arrangements, though I don't know why. I remember Evan holding me while I shook, while my brain tried and failed to process the impossibility of what we'd learned. We'd built a life together. We'd planned a future. We'd loved each other with everything we had. And now we knew that love was built on a foundation that should never have existed. The next morning, we drove back to the city. Evan and I sat in his apartment. Not touching, not talking, just existing in the same space while the world rearranged itself around us. We needed to tell my mother. We needed to understand how this had happened. How two people who were related could meet by chance and fall in love without knowing. Evan made the call. I couldn't. I listened on speakerphone as he explained everything. The photograph, the names, the funeral, the discovery. My mother was silent for a long time. When she spoke, her voice was wrecked. David, she said, David was your father. Yes, I said. Mom, how? How did this happen? She told us the story. She'd met David at that summer festival when she was 19, newly arrived in the city, trying to build a life away from the family she fled. He was kind and gentle, and she fell for him hard. They were together for 6 months. When she found out she was pregnant, she told him. He was shocked. He hadn't expected it, hadn't planned for it, but he said he'd support her however she needed. And then he disappeared, not intentionally. She thought he just stopped returning her calls. She assumed he'd changed his mind, that he didn't want a responsibility. She raised me alone and never tried to find him again. She didn't know he was her cousin. She didn't know they were related. She cut off all contact with her family years before, changed her name, started over. She had no idea that the man she'd fallen for was her mother's nephew, that the father of her child was family. He didn't know either. I said, he couldn't have. He would have. Would he? My mother's voice was bitter. Maybe he did know. Maybe that's why he left. We'll never know, Evan said quietly. He's gone. We sat with that for a while. The silence stretched and broke and stretched again. What do we do? I asked finally. What do we do now? No one had an answer. That was 3 days ago. I'm writing this from Evan's apartment, where I've been staying since we got back. We haven't told anyone else. Linda and Robert know, obviously, and my mother knows, but no one else. Our friends keep texting about wedding plans. The venue keeps sending reminders about final payments. The future we were building is still there, waiting for us, but we can't step into it anymore. Evan and I have talked endlessly. We've cried. We've held each other. We've tried to figure out what comes next. We love each other. That hasn't changed. But the context has changed. The foundation has shifted. Every time I look at him, I see my father's eyes, my mother's chin, the family resemblance we always joked about but never understood. We used to laugh about how people thought we were siblings. We don't laugh about it now. The biological reality is unavoidable. Even if we want to stay together, even if we could somehow reconcile the emotional horror of it, the genetic risk is too high. We can't have children. We can't build a family in the traditional way. And even if we could accept that, even if we could commit to adoption or childlessness, there's still the weight of what we are to each other. Half-siblings, first cousins, a tangled knot of blood and history that can never be untied. We've talked about walking away, about ending it now, cleanly, before the pain gets worse. But walking away feels like amputating a limb. We've been together for 3 years. We've built a life. We've made promises. How do you unlove someone? How do you uncouple yourself from a person who's become part of your bones? Last night, we sat on his balcony and watched the city lights and talked about our options. We could stay together, keep it secret, move somewhere no one knows us. We could tell people we chose not to have children, or we could adopt. We could build a life that looks normal from the outside, while carrying the secret forever. But secrets have weight. Secrets corrode. And eventually, someone would find out. A medical emergency. A casual comment. A DNA test for fun. The truth would come out, and then we'd lose everything anyway. We could end it. Go our separate ways. Try to heal. Try to find love again with people who aren't related to us. The thought makes me nauseous. I don't want anyone else. I want Evan. I wanted him since that night at the dive bar, and I don't know how to stop wanting him. There's no good option. There's no path forward that doesn't hurt. My mother called this morning. She's been drinking. I could hear it in her voice. She told me she's sorry. She told me she never meant for any of this to happen. She told me she loves me and she'll support whatever decision I make, even if she can't be part of it. I don't know what that means. I don't know if she'll come to the wedding if we have it, or if she'll ever speak to me again if we don't. I don't know if she'll ever forgive herself for the chain of events she set in motion when she ran away at 17. Evan's parents have been kind. Too kind. They keep calling, checking in, offering to help. They've told us they love us both, that they'll support us no matter what. But I see the grief in Linda's eyes when she looks at us. I hear the hesitation in Robert's voice when he talks about the future. They're losing their son, their daughter-in-law, their hope for grandchildren, all at once. I don't know what to do. I keep thinking about that photograph, the one of my father at the summer festival. He's smiling. He looks happy. He looks like Evan. He looks like me. I wonder if he ever knew. I wonder if he spent his life wondering about the woman he'd loved and lost, the child he'd never met. I wonder if he'd be horrified by what's happened, or if he'd understand that love doesn't care about blood, that the heart wants what it wants regardless of biology. I'll never know. Tonight, Evan and I are going to make a decision. We're going to choose a path and walk it together, whatever that means. We've talked in circles for days, and now it's time to act. Stay together. Keep the secret. Build a life on a foundation of sand. Or separate, grieve. Try to find a way forward alone. Neither option feels right. Neither option feels possible. But we can't stay in this limbo forever. I'm terrified. I'm heartbroken. I'm in love with a man who's also my brother, and I don't know how to reconcile those two truths. Whatever happens, I'll update. Maybe it'll help someone else who finds themselves in an impossible situation. Maybe it'll just be a record of how we fell apart, or how we found a way to stay together. I don't know yet. I just know that I never expected my life to become one of these stories. I never expected to be the person writing this post, asking strangers for advice, begging the universe for a sign. But here I am, Here we are, and we have to choose. We chose. Last night, Evan and I sat on his balcony and talked for hours. We talked about our history, our love, our future. We talked about the weight of the secret we'd carry, the judgment we'd face, the children we'd never have. We talked about the look in Linda's eyes and the sound of my mother's voice and the photograph of my father at the summer festival. And then we talked about the alternative. We talked about walking away, about never seeing each other again, about learning to live with a hole where our love used to be. By the time the sun came up, we had our answer. We're staying together. It's not a decision we made lightly. It's not a decision we're proud of. Exactly. It's a decision we made because the alternative was unbearable. Because 3 years of love can't be undone by a blood test. Because Evan is part of me and I'm part of him. And separating us would be like separating a person from their own shadow. We know what we're choosing. We know the risks, the genetic risks, the social risks, the legal risks. We know we'll never have biological children. We know we'll have to lie to everyone we love, or tell the truth and face their judgment. We know we're building a future on a foundation that most people would consider broken, but we're building it together. We called Linda and Robert this morning. We told them our decision. Linda cried, but she said she understood. Robert was quiet for a long time, then said, "You're adults. You get to choose your own path. We'll be here, whatever that path looks like." We called my mother. She didn't cry. She just said, "I loved your father. I loved him before I knew who he was, and I never stopped loving him after. I understand. We're not telling anyone else. Our friends will think we're a normal, engaged couple. They'll come to our wedding, if we still have one, and they'll celebrate with us, not knowing the truth. We'll carry this secret forever, and maybe it'll corrode us from the inside, and maybe it won't. We don't know yet. What we know is this: we love each other. We've loved each other since that night at the dive bar, and we'll love each other until we die. Biology doesn't change that. History doesn't change that. The circumstances of our birth don't change the people we become together. It's not a perfect solution. It's not even a good solution, probably. It's just the only solution we could live with. The wedding is still on. June like we planned. The barn with the string lights. The playlist Evan made. The dress I already bought. It'll be smaller now, maybe more private. We're not canceling the deposits. But we're not inviting everyone we originally planned. Just the people who matter most. The ones who know, and the ones we'll never tell. I don't know what the future holds. I don't know if we'll regret this decision in 5 years, in 10, in 20. I don't know if the weight of the secret will break us or bind us closer. I don't know if we'll ever feel normal again. But I know I'm not walking away from Evan. I know I'm not spending my life wondering what could have been. I know I'm choosing love, even if that love is complicated and messy and impossible to explain. Maybe that's enough. Maybe it has to be. We got married. It was small, just our parents, Evan's sisters, a few close friends who don't know the truth. The barn looked beautiful. Evan cried when he saw me in my dress. I cried when we said our vows. It was real and true and ours. We moved to a new city far from both our hometowns. Evan got a job with an engineering firm. I'm teaching second grade at a local elementary school. We have a small apartment with a balcony where we watch the sunset and talk about our days. We have a cat named after a Bob Dylan song. We have a life. We've told no one else. The secret sits between us, heavy sometimes, but we carry it together. Some nights we talk about it, what we lost, what we gained, what we'll never have. Other nights we pretend it doesn't exist, and we're just a normal couple with a normal love. We're not normal. We'll never be normal, but we're happy. My mother calls every Sunday. She's sober now, has been for 8 months. We don't talk about my father or about how Evan and I are connected or about any of it. We talk about her garden, my students, the weather. It's enough. Linda and Robert visit twice a year. They're grandparents to our cat, which is absurd and wonderful. They've never once made us feel ashamed of our choice. They've never once suggested we should have done things differently. They love us, simply and completely, and that love is a gift I'll never stop being grateful for. Evan and I have talked about children. Adoption, probably in a few years. Or maybe we'll stay just the two of us, plus the cat, plus whatever other animals we accumulate. We're not in a hurry. We have time. I still think about that photograph sometimes. My father at the summer festival, smiling, unknowing. I think about the chain of events that led to me, to us, to this impossible love. I think about fate and coincidence and the terrible, beautiful randomness of existence. I don't have answers. I don't think I ever will. But I have Evan. I have our life. I have the future we're building, brick by brick, secret by secret, love by love. And for now, that's enough.